What up guys, coming at you with another AMA for this week. Also want to announce that we just launched 2 new formulas on Amazon, our magnesium capsules and our vitamin D. This is going to be, we're going to do a bunch more of these basics, just basic nutrients that I can improve on, like this one. This has magnesium glycinate, a touch of potassium, so you don't throw off that magnesium potassium balance, and nothing else in there. Really high quality stuff. This is vitamin D with olive oil as the fat. No soybean, no canola, no BS. If you want to try these out, go to santacruzpaleo.com or get them on Amazon. Let's get into this week's AMA. There's a bunch of questions from you guys, so let's get to them. Let's get it rocking, and as always, leave your comments below and subscribe, and I will answer your comments. Okay, this question is about the recent drug crisis with young kids, like it's going on, probably like opioids, I think they're talking about. And yeah, this is extremely bad. It's getting worse and worse. You'll see it if you go to San Francisco or any like major city, and I've seen stats that the deaths of despair, which are a drug overdose and alcohol overdose, are massively up. I think this just comes from people being so disconnected with themselves. They don't have community, they don't have health and wellness, and so they go towards these things. It's really bad. As far as how to solve it, I don't know. I think if you're a healthy, happy human being, you're not going to go towards that stuff. So chase health and wellness. Don't chase that horrible life. It's just a bad ending if you get into that stuff. So I don't know how to solve that. That's tough, but yeah, it's crazy. It's definitely gotten worse. The next question is, what is a good lunch? And you said, what can kids eat for lunch? So I'm assuming you mean something you can bring to school. So what I would recommend is meat and fruit. So you can cook like some meat, maybe some steak, maybe some chicken, and then you pack that up into like a Pyrex container, and then you bring some fruit. So like a lunch that I had not too long ago was some chimichurri chicken thighs. So I made that the night before, and there's a little bit of rice in there, and I brought an apple. So for lunch, I busted out that chimichurri chicken thigh, ate that with some rice, and then I had my apple after that. That's a really good like protocol right there. Meat, potatoes, fruit, stick to that, make your meals before. The next question is, Brendan is being nocturnal, or I'm assuming like he's working probably like at night, staying up late. Is it healthy as long as you're doing everything else right? The unfortunate answer is no. There is study after study on shift pattern sleep disorders. When you work certain shifts, it's not good for your health. It just isn't. There's really no way around it. It's really bad for you. If you work nights, I'm sorry, it's not good for you. Maybe if you do it short term and you're able to just get through that, that's okay. But if you do that long term, it's gonna significantly affect your health. The next question is, Brendan, what do you think of Coke Zero versus normal, Coca-Cola, which is better? So yes, in terms of weight loss, Coke Zero and diet sodas are going to be better for weight loss because you're not consuming those calories. I'm not really a fan of artificial sweeteners because of what they might do to your gut, brain, other aspects of your health. They're positively correlated with headaches after consuming them. I don't feel like we fully know what's going on with artificial sweeteners, but are they better than consuming, maybe 90 grams of high fructose corn syrup? Yes, I would say so. Still not a fan of them, but are they better than normal soda? Yeah. The next question is, Brendan, should I not buy canned food or drink because of that plastic BPA lining that's in there? So what I would say is it's impossible to completely avoid BPA, so you got to kind of choose your battles here. For example, I will get some like canned sardines sometimes, which might have some plastic in there, but the sardines are really good protein. They're a good source of, omega-3 fatty acids, stuff like that. It's impossible to completely avoid plastic, so you just want to, again, pick your battles there. So if you're buying some healthy food that helps you budget and it is in cans, I think that's totally fine here and there. When you can avoid it, but here and there is fine. The next question is, does eating 1 steak a week improve or decrease healthiness? So kind of a vague question there, but what I would say is if you are doing other things like working out and exercising and you're using that steak to hit your protein goal, of course I'm a fan of that. I eat a lot of steak and I feel very, very healthy. But if you're eating a steak and then, maybe eating some McDonald's later, you're not working out, that's probably just going to be net neutral for you. I wouldn't really recommend doing that. So yes, if you're doing healthy habits, eat your steak. The next question is, Brendan, what are your thoughts on French fries? So traditional French fries, not a fan of, because what is a traditional French fry nowadays? It's cooked in seed oils, probably reused seed oils. So those baskets of seed oils in fast food restaurants just sit there. They dip the fries in there over and over and over again. It's really, really bad. Sometimes they put sugar on them and other preservatives. McDonald's even uses an anti-foaming agent in their oil so they can reuse it more. It's really bad. But in terms of like French fries you can make at home, huge fan. Get some potatoes, chop them into French fry-like shapes, dry them out, either with salt and water or just like a paper towel, toss them in some duck fat or some beef tallow or some olive oil, put some salt on there, throw them in the air fryer or oven. That's a good French fry. The next question is, how can you treat eczema? So I'm telling you, if you do the Santa Cruz Medicinals diet strict for 30 days, you're probably gonna see some amazing results with your eczema. I've seen this time after time. I've gotten hundreds of DMs specifically with people that have eczema, that have really cleaned up their diet and seen huge results. What I would also recommend is fixing your actual gut. So you might wanna throw in some supplements like glutamine powder. You might wanna throw in some supplements like our leaky gut capsules are a good idea. You wanna really look at your gut health because that is what reflects in your skin health. You can look up the gut-skin axis. People have healed their eczema purely with diet, some supplements, and some lifestyle changes. I would also recommend getting a shower filter if you're bathing in chlorine. That can exacerbate eczema symptoms and create dry skin. And then, moisturize with beef tallow. That's what I do. I've gotten eczema before, and it only happens when I go completely off my diet. The next question is, how many times a week should I be doing cold exposure or hitting the sauna? So with cold exposure, there are studies showing that cold exposure can limit muscle hypertrophy. This is with pretty intense regular cold exposure. So this is a reason why I'm not like the type of guy that does an ice bath every day, because I'm trying to create, I'm trying to do hypertrophy training, and there are studies again showing that it can limit muscle hypertrophy. It also can increase cortisol. Think about it. You're getting into a freezing cold, bath or whatever these people are doing daily. Your body's really going to ramp up some stress hormones to deal with that. There are some short-term benefits to that. I like cold exposure, but I jump in the ocean. I did a video on that, but I'm not a fan of daily cold exposure. Daily sauna exposure is different. There are plenty of studies on people who do sauna exposure daily, and they do pretty intense sauna exposure, and there doesn't really seem to be any negative effects to that as long as you sort of adapt yourself to that. On days where I train really hard and I get a good sweat in, I sometimes skip the sauna, but I'm in the sauna probably 5 to 6 days out of the week. The next question is, Brendan, what are your thoughts on watermelon and other melons? Are they good to eat? I'm a huge fan of watermelon, cantaloupe, other melons. I think they're an excellent fruit. They're oftentimes very rich in vitamin C. Watermelon's rich in citrulline, which is gonna help with blood flow. Citrulline is a supplement that I take that helps with nitric oxide production. Huge fan of watermelon, huge fan of cantaloupe. I'm a big fan of those. The next question is, what are good cheap cuts of steak that I can get? So what I would go towards is that skirt steak, that sirloin steak. The tougher the cut of meat usually, the cheaper, but you can do some stuff at home to throw a good marinade on it. So if you go get a skirt steak, it's probably gonna be between $8 and $10 a pound, maybe $11 a pound. And what you're gonna do is get some lime on there, some olive oil, some salt, let it sit in your fridge, maybe a touch of vinegar, and that's gonna actually help the meat get softer, and then you grill that thing up. Another really good cut of meat is chuck roast. With chuck roast, I would highly recommend making a stew or slow cooking it. Chuck roast is oftentimes like $4.99 a pound, and you can get that, you can make a really good stew, and that is affordable. The next question is, Brendan, what are your thoughts on spicy food? Probably hot sauces is what they're asking, so let's get into it. So there are some studies showing that excess spice can damage your gut lining. Now, there are also studies showing that some spice can actually have beneficial health effects, as there's, polyphenols, antioxidants, there are some benefits to spice. What I have noticed is that if I go crazy with the spice, I definitely feel it in my guts, and sometimes I'll even get some skin reaction if I'm going really overboard with the spice, which shows me that there is some damage to my gut if I go crazy with it. Now, if I'm just using some, Tabasco or other hot sauce here and there, or adding, maybe a spicy dish here and there, I see no bad effects. So if you're somebody that likes spice, I think it's fine, but if you're trying to do a gut reset, I would stay away from the spices. This question is, Brendan, I'm putting olive oil in my protein shakes for extra calories. Is this a good idea? So adding fat to your protein shake is totally something you could do if you're trying to get calories. Personally, I could see olive oil being okay, in terms of the taste, but I would really recommend looking at MCT oil, which I have some MCT oil right here. We make one, but MCT oil is medium chain triglyceride oil. It is pretty calorie dense. It's a calorically dense food. So yeah, you could add that in to get those extra calories, but you might want to go with MCT oil or coconut oil over olive oil just for taste. The next question is, Brendan, what are your thoughts on raw meat? So we've seen on TikTok all these people, that just eat raw meat, and we see Liver King, and we see my boy Paulie Long just like eating raw meat, and actually went live with Paulie. I ate some raw steak with him. Look, I am not a huge fan of it. Yes, there are some more bioavailable nutrients in raw meat, but there's also decreased protein synthesis when you eat raw meat compared to meat that's cooked. I think if you're a big fan of the raw meat thing, you can just sear that steak. There's also safety issues. We see these people like Liver King eating, meat, but that meat is probably really fresh. If you're getting high quality, fresh, really fresh raw meat, you could probably eat that. But if you're getting some bad steak from Walmart and you're eating that raw, you could have some serious issues. And definitely don't eat raw chicken or raw fish unless it's sashimi grade. So I'm not a big fan of the raw meat. Can you eat some raw meat here and there? Sure, you probably can. I prefer to cook my meat. I think it's tastier, and I think the protein is more bioavailable. The next question goes off that. It's, Brendan, what are your thoughts on a well-done steak? Well, I'm not really a fan of a well-done steak. I don't really want to, if I get a high-quality steak, I do want it probably medium rare, maybe medium. I don't think you always have to cook stuff where it's just like blue in the middle, as they call it, or like really rare. But if I'm getting a good high-quality steak, I don't want it well done because it's just going to reduce the amount of juiciness. Now, if that cut of steak is a bit, not that great, I might want to cook it a bit longer. It's just easier to eat. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. The next question is, Brendan, I know that we need about 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, but how much dietary fat do we need? This is a very interesting question, and there isn't one answer. It's going to depend on your activity levels and where you feel good. As far as, doing a really high fat diet, I am actually not a fan of that. I don't do an extremely high fat diet compared to some of the other keto and carnivore diets that you've seen out there. I get a moderate amount of fat. I do not stray away from using butter, olive oil, tallow, but I'm not ingesting massive amounts of butter, olive oil, or beef tallow. So I would say a moderate amount. You need to find your sweet spot. I wouldn't be doing the thing where people like eat sticks of butter every day, but I also wouldn't stray away from using them completely. Butter is a great source of vitamin K2 and other fat-soluble nutrients. So go somewhere in the middle. The next question is, Brendan, what are your thoughts on tanning beds? Are tanning beds good? In my opinion, no, they're not. You're not really getting the same UVA and UVB that you would get from sunlight, and there might be some risk to that because you're really, it's kind of unnatural. You're blasting yourself suddenly with, pretty high levels of UVA and UVB. So I would just try to get sun, and if there's not enough sun where you live, get some vitamin D. We make vitamin D, santacruzpaleo.com. Supplement with that if you're not getting total body sun exposure. The next question is, if you don't get burnt in the sun, maybe you have some darker skin, is raw sun exposure, total body sun exposure good for you? In my opinion, absolutely. I think if you're not getting burnt in the sun, you can totally get sun. You'll see I'm pretty tan. My mom was born in India. My dad's Irish-German. So I do have some of her genetics where I tan well. So I'm not going in the sun and I'm getting burnt. What I am doing is getting total body sun exposure, increasing my vitamin D levels, setting my circadian rhythm, which sunlight also does. And you just feel great when you get sun. You look great, you feel great. So yeah, I would recommend getting sun. Don't get burnt, but get some sun. Next question, going off all those, is would we ever consider making a Santa Cruz Paleo non-nano zinc SPF, maybe like a beef tallow sunscreen? It's definitely something we would consider. We'll look into that, but there's no plans in the immediate future. We have the grass-fed, grass-finished whey we're working on. We have the pump caps by Santa Cruz Medicinals that we're working on. We're really excited on a lot of things. We're launching mango electrolytes coming soon. So we got a lot of sticks in the fire, but that could be something that we do. The next question is, can you make a homemade pizza with sourdough bread? That's absolutely something you can do. It's not something that I specialize in, but yeah, look it up on YouTube and you will find some good recipes for that. Try it out, but tag me if you do, because that sounds interesting. I want to check that out. The next question is, Brendan, I'm a teenager. Can I take creatine because I work out? I get this question a lot, and I'm not really here to tell you what you should take and what you shouldn't take. So here's the deal. If you're eating meat, fish, or eggs, which you probably are if you're watching this, you are ingesting creatine. So you're probably getting about 1 gram per day. So if you want to supplement with another 4 or 5 grams of creatine, that's up to you. There's tons of studies on creatine. It's one of the most researched supplements out there. It does benefit muscle growth. It does benefit your ATP, which is basically your energy, and it does benefit brain health. So if you want to take it, that's up to you, but you're ingesting creatine anyway if you eat meat, fish, or eggs. The next question is, Brendan, is eating meat bad for the environment? So that's really going to depend. On a broad scale, yes, but listen, everything you do right now, if you're watching this, is bad for the environment. You're watching this on a phone or a computer, that is really, really bad for the environment. You drive a car, that is bad for the environment. At some point, you're gonna have to take ownership of your health and make some decisions about what you want in life. I eat meat because it's really beneficial for my health. It allows me to, be me. It allows me to give back to my family, to my friends, and just be healthy. Now, if we look into grass-fed, grass-finished, regenerative beef, or pasture-raised eggs, pasture-raised chicken, I just visited that farm yesterday. That is amazing for the environment. That actually heals the environment. The chickens in that coop at Pajaro Pastures, he rolls around that chicken coop, it fertilizes the ground, it helps the actual soil. Now, most of the meat that we're eating in the United States is not like that. I'm lucky enough where a lot of the meat that I eat is like that. So if you can strive to get grass-fed, grass-finished beef, pasture-raised chicken, pasture-raised eggs, that can actually be really beneficial for the environment, but normal factory farm beef is not good for the environment, but neither is your iPhone. The next question is, Brendan, is popcorn, if it's popped in healthy oils, good for you? So I would say it's sort of a neutral food. I don't really consider corn a health food, but if you're getting some, relatively unprocessed stuff, like you're just popping your own popcorn and you're adding some, grass-fed grass-fed butter to it. I don't really see it as that bad. I'm not completely against it, but just make sure you're not getting that fake butter popcorn. So yeah, if you're popping it at home in some good oils and you're having it sometimes, I think that's fine. The next question is, Brendan, what are some ways to strengthen your cheekbones and your jaw? So we see all these like things on TikTok of like these jaw exercisers and all this shit. It's, you know, our jaws developed for a few reasons. One is to actually chew meat and be able to chew. You have these teeth in the back that are meant to rip and chew. So eating meat can improve that. As far as those jaw exercisers and stuff like that, I don't really know how well they work, but there is something that does work, which is breathing through your nose when you sleep. So I do tape my mouth a little bit when I go to sleep, because when you breathe through your nose, it changes the facial structure of your face. This isn't up for debate. There's so many studies on this. There's actual studies where they have twins. One's a mouth breather, one's a nose breather, and you can see the structure of their face. So that's a big thing. There's also studies that higher testosterone is going to lead to higher cheekbones and more jaw development. So you really don't want your testosterone to be super low. That can affect your actual facial development. So those are things that actually work. I wouldn't waste your money on those jaw exercisers. I don't think they make that much of a difference. The next question is, Brendan, what are some healthy snacks? Like, what do you eat to snack on? So what I'd really recommend, first of all, is looking at why you are snacking. So if the snack is just some urge you get because you're hungry, I would recommend going towards real food, making a protein shake. A protein shake is my favorite type of snack, because let's be real. If you're hungry for bullshit, then you're not actually like hungry. If you are hungry, eat protein first of all, and then see if you're still hungry after that. So a good protein shake is going to be an amazing go-to. Something I really like is these carnivore snacks. They're like a really expensive beef jerky basically, but you can just get like a more affordable beef jerky. Like Epic Bar makes a good beef jerky. That's a good snack. I think fruit is a good snack. But yeah, overall, you really want to look at why you snacking. Have little meals of real food, and if you're not hungry for that, are you really hungry? The next question is, what are my thoughts on Paul Saladino's diet, the animal-based diet? First of all, the dude completely snubbed us in Costa Rica, didn't film with us, but whatever. I think his diet is good overall. Now, the animal-based diet and the way that he does it is pretty expensive, and for a lot of people, I think it is missing out on some fiber. I'm not against potatoes, rice, and some veggies. And that's also going to make your diet way more affordable, because potatoes, rice, and veggies are usually very affordable, and it's going to add a good amount of calories and carbs. So that's where I differ. I also think raw dairy is pretty inaccessible for most people. That's a big part of his diet. Not saying I'm not a fan of raw dairy, I am, but it's pretty inaccessible for most people. So I think his diet is great. A lot of what I eat is meat and fruit, which makes up the bulk of his diet. I'm not really a fan of eating raw organs too often, but I'm not against it. So if you can get some high quality raw organs, that's great. But for most people, they're not really going to do that. So yeah, that's my thoughts on his diet. The next question is, Brendan, what is the healthiest way of making coffee in the morning? So what you're going to want to do is get a French press or a pour over. The reason is there are oils in coffee, capistrol and cowahol, which a lot of the benefits of coffee come from, and it's going to preserve a lot of those antioxidants. You don't want to put your coffee into a plastic coffee maker, basically infusing it with BPA, maybe mold too, as those coffee makers get moldy. That's not a good way to have your coffee in the morning. And then what you add to your coffee is very important. You can drink it black, which I think is the best way. You could add some healthy fats like some MCT oil, or maybe a little touch of grass-fed butter. You could add some healthy, raw cream. Grass-fed, grass-finished cream would be great. But yeah, if you're adding coffee mate to your coffee or sugar, that's a really bad thing to do, or even very low quality dairy. So yeah, traditional black coffee is probably the best way to go. The next question is more of a thank you. It's like, Brendan, your YouTube has been growing a lot lately. They've been seeing my shorts everywhere. So yeah, I just want to thank you guys so much. If you're subscribing, if you're watching, if you're engaging, that really, really helps me so much. When you comment on stuff, when you upvote it, all that type of stuff, just talking to people in the comments really, really does help, and I appreciate it so much. Can't thank you guys enough. And if you want to get any of our formulas, just look up Santa Cruz Paleo on Amazon or Santa Cruz Medicinals. And yeah, just thank you for showing me love. Any type of comment, any message and all that type of stuff really, really helps us. And we got some cool stuff that we're up to this summer. So yeah, I want you guys to come along for it and join me. So thank you so much. Leave your comments below for next week's AMA, and I'll talk to you soon.